The last segment of this section is called integrated mindset. And you're probably asking yourself, what the hell does that mean? What it means is because we're talking about trying to figure out how to do virtual collaboration, where individuals don't spend a lot of time together and contribute in time slots when they have time available, it's important to figure out how to produce generative interactions where the interactions from these various and sundry people who contribute asynchronously are actually more than the sum of the parts, so that the interactions produce something more than just adding up the pieces. Now, we think to do that, it's extremely important that the intent is very well defined so that people understand what it is that you're trying to get them to contribute to accomplishing, as opposed to some amorphous, ambiguous statement of what the goal is. It needs to be well defined so that without any ambiguity, people can in fact relate to it and find it and perceive it to be a meaningful undertaking. Now, at the same time, what makes this difficult is people prefer to have a sense of ownership. If I define an undertaking and invite people to participate, the best that they can do is sign up and contribute, as opposed to having a sense of ownership. And one of my favorite questions is to ask people, why don't people wash their rental cars? I think it's a question of ownership. So that those individuals that you ask to contribute, you have to also provide an opening for them to comment on and contribute to the evolution of the intent. Though that evolution needs to be managed in such a way that there isn't a lot of scope creep to a point where the intent continues to expand into something that is never going to be accomplished. The intent needs to be sufficiently well defined and targeted to be meaningful, though those individuals that you ask to participate need to perceive that it is actually doable. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about Ackoff's interactive planning, our idealized design, in terms of how you define something that's very forward-looking yet doable. Now, in conjunction with that, because we talked about developing models and using discussions on an ongoing basis so that people can drop in and look at the current state of things and offer their thoughts, and discussions having a tendency to be divergent in nature. A lot of care needs to be taken to ensure that what is actually contributed ends up continuing to be distilled into its absolute essence to define, this is the point of understanding that we're at the moment. And here is the very specific issue that we're trying to sort out at the moment. And here's how that issue relates to the rest of the situation as far as we understand it. So that if someone drops in for 10 minutes and they can look at this summary as to, here's what we think we understand, and here are the two issues we're working at the moment, and they can offer their perspective on those issues and get back to whatever it was that they were doing before. So that it's essential that someone or a couple of people curate the effort sort of fanatically to ensure that it maintains focus, so that it appears as though the ownership is there amongst all of the collaborators, and it stays focused and stays on target. one of the worst things that can happen, well, it's happened to us in numerous attempts to do virtual collaboration, is that the project just continues to evolve or broaden in scope until it gets essentially so thin that people get bored and go away and are no longer interested. So I hope you found this piece informative, and I'll see you in the next section very shortly. Bye.